Hello, guys. Welcome to a brand new episode of New and NERDOM. This is going to be a little different. This isn't a live stream because, as you all know, my PC is down at the moment. But I bought a brand new power supply. I think that may help the case. No pun intended. So we're going to hopefully get all of this fixed in. But anyways,
yes, once the power's fixed, then he could turn it off and on again. And that's the number one fix for any tech problems, as everyone knows.
That's so true. It's so true. But anyways, I am your host, Dom. You know that Dylan is my co-host. He's doing well, but today...
Yeah, he's just going to speak for me. Yeah, I am doing well. Thank you. Yeah, he's doing well. Don't talk to him. Okay, don't find out how he's doing. Just go ahead and I'll tell you right now, he's doing fine. We don't need to ask him anything.
No questions asked. That's just how we're going to roll with this week. But I wanted to bring this to I guess whatever this attention is, because for months since I've left the comic shop to pursue my career goals and dreams, I've always wanted this guy on the pod. Super cool dude. I call him one of the 10 tech men over at the comic shop. I'd like to welcome the Kessel chat co-host and again close friend and extraordinaire, Jeff Bull. How are you doing today, man? Welcome on the pod.
Thank you both for having me. I am super stoked. We've been talking about this for a while, so I am just amazingly excited to be here with both of you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I always love sitting and chatting with you about Star Wars, and like you are just as well versed, if not a little bit more versed, because you read High Republic and I refuse to, as you all know.
Because apparently lightsabers can't stop.
They can't stop in rock. No, they can't. It melts rock.
Dude, just breathe.
I will say
here.
This.
Let's just bring it like a here.
I will say this. I did actually, while we're talking, because we're talking about Star Wars, so I'm going to talk about this really interesting reel I saw today about how sometimes when you look at a lightsaber, they're like cutting through it really easily. Sometimes it looks like they're swinging a bat. And someone decided, well, what if they actually are sabers and there's blunt ends of a sword? And someone like Qui-Gon, who's cut in a circle, would know how to use the blade side rather than Luke, who's just going to be swinging it around, because he never got that training.
There's a mutual of mine on TikTok, Dread Pirate Dad, who has had this exact theory. He's like, what if lightsabers actually have an edge? But it's hard to see because they're kind of an oval and you can't tell by the light, but there's actually an edge. And he's a big Wheel of Time nerd. And he's like, I've got this whole theory about it. So, dude, you might be onto something. You two should connect because there's a thing there. There is something there.
No, there is. But I totally saw it from a reel. We probably stole it from him because that's how content creation works. But I totally, it makes so much sense. And I love these little things that get made sense later, because there was no thought in Lucas's head when he made those lightsabers. Nothing like that at all. In fact, the original...
His thought was, will it look like a samurai movie? Is it going to look like a Kurosawa film? And will it be good for kids? Will kids like it? If that hit those two check boxes, that's it.
Except for he messed up one thing by basing it off of kendo, because in the sport kendo, there's not actually any hitting. You just go... Like again, you're like, there's.
Is that actually true?
Yeah, you don't really hit as much as you like tap or like try not to get hit. That's mostly the sport of kendo right there. So that's why they kind of redid it when the prequels happened, to make it more fun and more actual battle-y. Also, the budgets were way bigger, I'm sure.
I mean, if the CGI can age that well, which it has, to be fair. You know that they probably upped the budget for all three of those films.
Yeah, well, it's great when they fill in those blanks, like with Rogue One with the hole, or why it's the Kessel run is in parsec, like talking about parsecs, and parsecs is a distance. And I swear to God, I think it was Family Guy that brought that to everyone's attention. Like, parsecs is distance. They're like, oh, wait a minute. So,
actually, I will actually say, I think what predated a Family Guy doing that was Carl Sagan actually on like the Jay Leno show before he passed away a long time ago, saying that George got many things wrong. He was actually kind of frustrated with some of the things he got wrong, the obvious things. And I'm fairly certain he mentioned the parsecs thing. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, none of this makes, why are we talking about it? Like, he made it was very funny in the very Carl Sagan-y sort of way. But, but still, everyone now, the modern culture, pop culture knows it from Family Guy. So I'm with you. I'm super glad they addressed it, and specifically the way that they addressed that in Solo. It was much more fun. I love the yeah, I made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs, and Chewie says something. Well, not if you round down.
Yeah, it's like
I'm
like 12.8 or something.
That was a perfect Han Solo moment right there. Like, yeah, like, dude, you've convinced me. You are Han Solo. Like, 100%.
Yeah, no, yeah. Solo, that movie had its problems, but I thought it was well. I thought it was done well.
It was well crafted. I think.
I agree. It's one of those stories to me that's like, yes, any movie can have bits and pieces that aren't quite, what we might want. I personally, I felt like as much could have been done differently. However, each of the actors did such a good job portraying that if I had to sit back and say, what would these characters be like when they're that age? They all did a fantastic job convincing me that no, Donald Glover, yeah, you're Lando. Done. Like the actor played, I never remember his name, but who played Han Solo. I'm like, no, dude, he even had the motion at the very end. They're on the planet, and he and Chewie make the decision not to stay and do good. They're gonna leave, and he even he shakes his head, and then when he goes to wave, he does the little Han Solo flick of the finger sort of thing. I'm like, oh, dude, I caught that. I'm like, you know what? Nicely done. You lined it up in a way that made this work for me. 100%.
I thought Glover was more Lando than Billy D, honestly.
Yeah, 100%.
If I'm being honest, but that he's had his whole life to be Lando. I feel like he's always I could see Donald Glover with the full attire at his house, just going around.
He's got the suave Dylan. I mean, that's what it is.
He does.
100%. 100%. Well, if we're while we're here, guys, let's talk about it. We'll start with you, Jeff. What is your favorite when you think of Star Wars movie, film, TV, any book, comic book? What is the one thing that tops it more than anything?
Oh, that's a good question. So I'm gonna have to go with two things because I can't just pick one. If we're talking movies, Rogue One, hands down, full stop. If Rogue One is to this day is my favorite, and I remember seeing A New Hope when my dad brought it home. I would be 6 years old, so it was 85. He brought it home on VHS so we could watch it. I don't think the cover even said A New Hope. It said A New Hope in the crawl, but it didn't say A New Hope anywhere on the video.
Watch the original.
The original, and I remember. I don't remember actually watching it. I remember how I felt after watching it, and then my dad saying to me, "Wow, that's really good." Because the first movie is completely encapsulated. It's just one movie. If there's no more, you could watch the first movie and go, "Yeah, that was great. It's a beginning, middle, and end. You're great." And then him go, "Jeff, don't worry, there's more." And my little kid eyes were like, "What?" And head exploded. But all that nostalgia aside, Rogue One to me is it's not just the best film in my opinion because of the cinematography and how it was directed. It's the way that story was told, that it wasn't intended for anybody to be the hero and live and all that. It was meant to tell a very specific story that happened, and there's no space wizards. It's just people dealing with people things, the things that humans have to deal with in these situations. And they're not rosy, they're not clean, and they're not perfect, but people make the best decisions they can. And you watch it, and at least for me, every character in that, I can see some part of myself in those characters and decisions they make going, wow, would I be able to make that decision? I don't know. And it kind of makes you question, would I do that? Wow, what would I do in a situation if I was presented with that? I absolutely love that style of storytelling. It really, for me at least, it really lands hard. But aside from that, if I was to pick one other thing that wasn't just a movie, I would have to pick, and I have it right here, is the first Star Wars book I ever owned. It was actually given to me before I bought the rest of them. So the first book in the Jedi the Jedi Academy trilogy, volume 1 is called Jedi Search by Kevin J. Anderson. First book I ever got, first Star Wars book, it was given to me, and then the other two are on the shelf right here. I haven't read them since the 90s when I got it, but this was the first time I realized, it's not just a bunch of movies. There's some other really cool stories too. Because friends of mine had talked about Star Wars and all these other books they had read in what we now call the EU or Legends or what have you. And all these other stories. And some of them sounded interesting, but some of them were a bit too fantastical for me. They were a bit too out there. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sure that's fun. But then someone told me, no, you need to read this one. And I read it. I'm like, oh, this feels like a Star Wars book to me. Like this feels like it actually was happening aside in the movies. Like I felt the same characters, Wedge Antilles is in it, doing things after the fall of the Empire. Like, oh, okay, I am convinced this is legitimately what happened after, Return of the Jedi. It was just written. These books were written, for me at least, so well that I was convinced this must clearly be what Lucas had in mind. So yeah, it would be Rogue One and then Jedi Surge.
Yeah,
I'm gonna add it to the list because Wedge Antilles is such a cool character.
He is.
I'm gonna have to 100% agree with you with Rogue One. Rogue One is definitely my #1 movie, just because even though Andor and
100%.
and what's her face aren't they're great, but they're not as they're not as much of stars to me at that time. Andor in the show, he really developed a character and he got a lot better than I feel like he was in Rogue One. But I just felt like those were my favorite. But I still love the movie every which way. Freaking Donnie Yen. I mean, come on.
Oh, dude.
And then like you said, there is a tie because for me, my #1 book, and I loved it. I've read it 3 times. I ended up giving it to a friend of mine called Hannibal Taboo. I gave it to him, and I said, "This is my favorite book, Darth Plagueis," which of course is in Legends. And the reason I love that book, it's
fantastic.
all about the master of Palpatine. It's about how Palpatine got found, how he came up, but more importantly, how the Sith took over using politics. Because it was brilliant, and it really you kind of see why Palpatine is such a badass, and it's because of Plagueis and his legacy.
I'm so with you. That is, I've re-listened to that audiobook. I only have it in audio form, but I've re-listened to it probably 3 or 4 different times. And it's at this point it's okay. We won't get into the whole what's canon, what's not canon. It's technically not canon, but whatever. It's a fantastic story, and we can just lean on it because it not only does it, like you said, give us the heart of who Palpatine is and where he came from, because the book isn't really about Palpatine, but he's a prominent player in it. I love, and I've often wondered, how different would the story have been? Would the galaxy have been with the Sith taking over if Plagueis, if Palpatine didn't kill Plagueis? If Plagueis didn't let himself, sorry, spoiler alert, everyone, apologize. If Plagueis,
there's gonna be a lot of spoilers here in the pod.
All right, great.
We all know, dude. We all know. It's rule 2. There can only be a master and an apprentice.
Rule 2, we know that. But if he didn't basically let himself just get drunk because he was excited about something, and then Palpatine killed him, dude, come on, what were you thinking? You got too complacent. But if he had what would the galaxy have shaped out like with a Sith ruling if it was Plagueis pulling the strings and not Palpatine deciding everything? I've been really curious about that because Palpatine was that dude was banana shit crazy. He was, the stuff that he did. I mean, what's it called? I was just thinking about it earlier today. What's the Operation Cinder? Operation Cinder. Oh my god! One of the most diabolical things, and it's not just that he did it or he ordered it, it's the reason he ordered it.
I don't know. Do you know about Operation Cinder, Dom?
I've heard the name.
They mention it, so they mention it in season 2 Mando. That's what Bill Burr's character.
Oh, that's the thing.
This is the thing, and this is the crate, because my friend told me about it right after that. Jeff explained it because it's crazy. You're right. It's batshit crazy.
It is right. So if you ever, just as a reference, go, anybody watching, and for you, Dom, too, go watch any of the cinematic footage from Star Wars Battlefront. Which squadron? Oh, what is the name of it? It's like Shadow Squadron or something. It's like the group. It's one of the Battlefront games, but you play as one of these 3 characters that are part of a small elite group in the Empire, and you're following them along, and you get to see what Operation Cinder is in the cinematic footage. You deal with it. So basically, Operation Cinder was, if Palpatine was ever killed or he died, his final ruling was Operation Cinder, which was everything gets demolished and when I say demolished, every planet in the Empire that meant anything of worth needed to be purged and cleansed of all people there who weren't completely loyal to him, because, and I'm paraphrasing, if the Empire could not keep their own emperor around, how possibly could the Empire be around? They didn't deserve to be around if they couldn't keep their emperor alive. So they all deserved to be wiped out, to the point of like these satellites being put in orbit around systems and firing massive like Death Star laser beams to nuke the entire planet. Another one that created massive amounts of weather storms that literally disrupted everything and killed all life on the entire planet across thousands of planets in the galaxy, all happening at one time. And so as soon as he died, Operation Cinder goes into effect. Start killing everybody.
And here's the thing that makes it even more badass is, in his mind, whoever survives that deserves to be in the Empire, and that's what the First Order is.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It is.
That sounds super insane.
I'm gonna double check. Inferno Squadron. That's what it is.
Inferno Squadron. There it is.
So Battlefront. Go look up Star Wars Battlefront Inferno Squad or Inferno Squadron and watch. Just go to YouTube and you can watch the entire cinematic, all the cinematic from it. You'll see all of it play out. It is frightening, and then you actually get to learn even more about those details in the Aftermath trilogy, which came out, I think, in 2016. It's books and audiobooks. In the Aftermath trilogy, they deal with that in a large part. And oh, dude, it is the reason I have attached myself so much to Star Wars in the last 7-8 years, more so than I did in the rest of my life, is because the stories have become less of the space opera, but the soap opera that Lucas has been quoted saying that that's what he was making, is essentially a soap opera, and become more of humanity-based stories of like what would happen in a fascist regime and beyond fascism, like the more extreme version in some cases than even like, what we know as fascism in our world. Like taking that, what would humans do? How would they deal with it? What would it even look like for that to happen? And we're, some of it is in young adult, some of it's in adult, some of it's in movies, some of it is in comics, but you get to see this play out, and as you read it, as you watch it, for me at least, it hits on so many feelings. Like, holy crap, how would you deal with this? And in some cases, you just don't know. Like, I don't know how I would handle this. And it's mind-blowing.
Well, it's even crazier, too, to add to that, because I saw a meme, I think back in 2018, 2017, before the third movie. It was right after the second movie dropped. So whatever, of the sequel trilogy. And it was basically like, okay, when the first Star Wars came out, everyone was still like afraid of the Nazis. So that's what the Empire was right. Nazis taking over. After that, we were more worried about? We were worried more about corrupt politicians and corporations taking over. And that's where we get the prequels. Now, what are we worried about? We're worried about neo-Nazis. And we're worried about Kylo Ren, who is that Columbine kid petting the helmet of Darth Vader, And that's what we're scared of. And that's kind of what we got. And it's really interesting to kind of see. And I don't know if it was like a purposeful kind of thing or if he's just reflecting the times and kind of going with it. But I was not scared of Kylo Ren until I read that, and I'm like, holy shit! Oh my god! I thought he was just someone that bought everything from Hoth Topic.
No, that's a great analogy, and I think to add to what you two were saying, to answer Dylan's question, for me, Star Wars growing up was going home on Thursday nights and waiting for Cartoon Network to premiere the new episodes of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. For me as a kid, like that was like my taste of getting to see galaxy adventures far, far away, and all that other stuff. And you get to see all the machinations of what was to become, and how pretty much the people who worked on that show not only were able to, make the prequels work in more cases than none, but just to flesh out this whole entire world that we might not have seen because we're focused on Anakin and Obi-Wan and all these other characters. And me, like, as a kid, like getting to see the world through like the lens of Ahsoka, I thought like that was super cool. That was super awesome. And for that, and the embodiment of getting to that point where everything's gonna fall apart, because of course it is. That's where
we all know. That's the crazy thing about Star Wars, is like we all know where everything's leading at this point, and we don't even care.
Oh, you know what? I absolutely love that you both bring that up. So to me, this reminds me a lot of there's a huge similarity here in. Have you both seen like Knives Out and Glass Onion,
I
the
love
Rian
Knives
Johnson
Out.
films?
Loves Knives Out, man.
Okay.
That was so good.
So then you probably both know, and if anybody watching probably knows this too, like Rian Johnson he said that one of the premises in making both of those movies, and specifically in Glass Onion, is it is meant to be the anti-mystery box, and it's a massive like slap in the face, or like throwing shade at JJ Abrams and his JJ Abrams that loves his mystery box. And sorry, JJ, you're a fantastic human, but like you have no idea how to end a story, and you need to let go of the mystery box. Stop. But the reason I bring that up is you watch Knives Out or Glass Onion, and almost immediately in the movie, you know what the ending's going to be. Like within the first 30, 40, you know what the conclusion of the story is going to inevitably be. It's not even intended to be hidden from you, but it's the almost working backward from it that is far more interesting than the ending is. And I don't think it actually resonated with me until I watched both of those movies very recently, in the last couple of months. Until I watched those movies and realized, holy crap, people have said that to me before, and I didn't realize it. And Dylan, you just said that, like, you know what? I know how they both turn out, but watching all the lead up is so much more fun. Like, I almost don't care. Knowing the ending doesn't matter. Like, I want to see how we progressed through that hero's journey of sorts to get to that point. And same thing with Star Wars. Like, yeah, I know what the conclusion is going to be. And gonna see the Acolyte next year, the High Republic, live action show that occurs at the very end of the High Republic before the modern Skywalker era, so to speak. And we know where this is all leading, but it doesn't matter because there are still these really interesting and amazing stories that get to be told that we show us parts of the galaxy and people and Jedi and whoever that we just don't consider, but can attract a whole new audience that thinks about things in a whole new way with their own emotions, which that's the brilliant part about good storytelling, is when you can allow for that type of space. That makes really great storytelling.
Heck yeah.
Sure.
No, I totally agree with you. Yeah. And more often than not, like and you're so right with the mystery box, because he just doesn't even care about answering questions anymore. He just wants a mystery. Like, what was Finn gonna say to Rey when they were sinking in the sand, and they never go back to it? Like it's just so many, and it's so many setups and so many failures, and now Filoni has to come through and fix it all again, because if it wasn't for Filoni and Clone Wars, I would not appreciate the prequels. Straight up. 100%, he fixed the prequels for me. I can't wait for him to fix the sequels, and yeah, and Filoni we trust. That's all I gotta say.
I completely agree.
I mean, even with Rebels, and I always tell people this, Rebels was the first Disney Star Wars project, and you can literally physically see what was Disney, what was Filoni, and like it's totally obvious to me, but it's still good. It's still good for some of my older Star Wars fans. I'm always like, maybe not. Maybe watch a YouTube recap of it, because there's a lot of just Disney stuff in there, and you're not going to be into it. But the canon is so important.
It is. I think that first season of Rebels, the first few episodes felt a little campy to me, and someone told me, you need to watch it. I'm like, okay. And so I picked it up and I watched a couple episodes. I'm like, I don't know, this doesn't feel for me. And it took me a while to go back to it. But when I finally did and got through the first handful of episodes and got past some of the campy, jokey stuff in the beginning, at least in that first season, I was like, oh, to your point, Dylan, like, yes, absolutely. And then once you get into season 2 and beyond, the humor and the camp does still exist, but it starts to become diminished and be replaced with the more like young adult themes to attract that audience. I'm like, yes, okay, 100%, I am on board with this, because you really get into it. The only show, animated or otherwise, that I just could not get into, and I tried, I really did, was Resistance. We may have all talked about this before, but I loved the idea. I think what it was, I loved the idea of the animation style that they use. I'm like, this is really interesting. I'm not used to seeing this. I want to give this a shot. And I got probably 2/3 of the way through the first season before I finally said, I am forcing myself to watch these episodes. Like, I'm literally like, no, I got to sit down and do it. And I'd get through it and go, I don't care about what's happening with these characters. Like, everything here feels forced. I don't care what's happening with the First Order. I never did care what's happening with the First Order. You know what? I'm just going to let it go. And I've talked to many people who are like, great show. I've watched the whole thing and I love it. Right on. If those stories resonate with you, then you rock on with that and have a great time. They just didn't land for me, which is unfortunate, but you know what? Not everything is for everybody, so that's okay.
That's right. How about you, Dom? What's something that of Star Wars that you were like, yeah, not for me?
Man, that's actually a really good question because I mean most of what I like about Star Wars, I always try to find something to enjoy, which I usually do. Like even if I'm not super high on it, there's always something, whether it's like the characters or if it's the plot or the premise. You know, I hate ragging on it, and I know a lot of people have, but I can't with episode 9 of the sequels.
Who can? Who can?
You know,
I mean, if you're really into Avatar: The Last Airbender and the Goonies, there's something there for you, but that's about it.
No, I'm good. Yeah,
pass. You know, I think when you do these grand epic scale storytelling, whatever you want to call it, you have to commit at some point to something. And episode 9, even if you agree or disagree on whether The Last Jedi was a good movie, there's still stuff there that you need to continue to build on. And that for me was like episode 9 was just a wash away from everything, you know. And I think like Donny Cates Hulk is honestly the best and prime example of like current, like something like for the comic reader who's reading, like say you watch Immortal Hulk, like, or read Immortal Hulk. Maybe you don't, maybe you like it, maybe you don't, but you don't just throw all of that away to fit whatever you're trying to do new. Like you have stuff set up there, and when you have stuff set up, I feel like it's a discredit to all the people who worked hard on the previous things just to dump it all away for no reason.
Especially because they kept Venom going. Okay, they kept that nonsense that he left them with. They kept trying to fix it as hard. They had 2 of the top writers at Marvel, and they still couldn't fix it. And Donny Cates was like, "Oh, one of the best Hulk runs ever. How about this? What if I do something terrible?" Sorry. You brought Smashtronaut up, and you know how I feel about that. I can't with Smashtronaut, but
you know what I will say, Dom, I am 100. My buddy Ryan and I, who host the Kessel chat together, we have talked about this many times. We try to avoid it now just because we're not saying anything new, so we're just gonna stop. But I'm 100% on the same page. If someone was like, "Hey, should we make a movie past Last Jedi?" No, you can just stop. Unless you were gonna do the Duel of the Fates, like what was his name? Who wrote that original? What's that?
John Williams?
No. Somebody else actually wrote an initial script that was pitched and was starting to be worked on and was going to be directed by this person until that fell out with Disney.
Colin Trevorrow.
Whoever, yeah, I thought it was the same
Colin
guy
Trevorrow.
that did The Last Jedi. Yeah, he was supposed to.
He was
work on
supposed
the third
to do.
one, right?
He was supposed to do episode 9, and in that, his big bad would have been like, I'm sold, would have been Kylo Ren, because the way that The Last Jedi ended, like, Kylo Ren has gone down this path and he is doubling down on it, and he is the antagonist. He finds some Sith fleet or the First Order, he takes it, and there's a big confrontation and things have to happen, and there's a bunch of build up with it, and it's all about, it wasn't even about a redemption arc for Kylo. It's like, he has doubled down and owned it. And I'm like, I would have gone with that. Like, I would have gone with you. You've set that up. I would have gone with you on it. But the way that it played out, I'm like, you could have just stopped at The Last Jedi. Stories don't need to be made further just for the sake of doing it. And like the very end of The Last Jedi, when Luke is gone and the little kid you see there gets yelled at and then goes to pick up a broom and uses the Force, and I'm like, dude, that is, every kid growing up uses a broomstick or a stick or something to be their first lightsaber. Every person, every adult sees that and go, oh, that was my first lightsaber too. Like, everybody sees that and like, I was good. Like, you don't need to make another movie at this point. Do I want to know more? Yeah, everybody does. But do I need it for the story to be good? No. Like, that was fantastic. And then you made this pile of hot garbage that turned out to be episode 9. And I'm like, the actors, no shade at them. Like, actors do great jobs, but like the making of that movie, the storyline, fuck Palpatine. Dude, stop with Palpatine.
Well, I can even
put that dude away. Like, I'm done.
I could even deal with that. If they actually gave us some information and said, "Oh, I guess he's alive again."
Palpatine is
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Returned.
Like, and no, it's funny. There was a comic book creator that I know that since episode 7, he was saying that Rey is a Palpatine the whole time. Rey's a Palpatine. But in his headcanon, It was Palpatine's daughter, not granddaughter, which, by the way, would have made a lot more sense. Or even just fucking, that's his X-23 clone, you know? Because as far as genetics go with the Force, the only family that should actually have a genetic lineage of that is the Skywalkers, because Anakin was made from the Force. That's the only reason that I could even allow that to happen. To say Palpatine, who had no other Force users in his family, to be able, who at some point has a kid, like, when was this dude he would have had to have that kid while he would, I guess it would have to be before Order 66, obviously, because no one's gonna want to hook up with the Emperor like that.
Okay, you know what? So it is implied in, or I think it's actually said in, where is it? I have it back here someplace. The Shadow of the Sith book, that the dad of Rey is a clone of Palpatine. He's not his kid. He's a clone that they let just kind of run around on Exegol, and like, we don't give a crap about you because you have no Force abilities. A clone that was made that didn't have any Force abilities, and they're like, well, then I don't give a shit about you, and had to scrounge for themselves and figure themselves out on Exegol as a kid. Like, as soon as Shar's fully born, I don't give a crap about you. You're gone. The problem I have with all of that is, while Shadow of the Sith as a book is it's an interesting story. It's intense. It's scary. I absolutely detest when stories make it be like, tune in next week to find out the other thing that you need to know for this to make sense. I hate that. Don't make a movie that then requires me to go read another book just to make sense of the thing that you just said. No, your movie should stand, or your thing should stand alone. And if you add another book later that adds some context, hey, that one little thing, like 10,000 Jedi Knights used to be in the, and you want to tug on that later and tell me more about that, that's totally fine. But I didn't need to know that for the story to still be a good story. To me, this is what it felt like with Episode 9. Shadow of the Sith, as an example, had to be made to explain all this stuff that is not explained and doesn't actually make any sense in the story. Like, and you read later, like, wait, but no, hold on. Like, I'm good with the found family stuff. I'm good with her being a Palpatine and like picking Skywalkers. I don't give, yeah, that's all great. But how? But like, what? You're not helping me here. Like, there's too many of these left open things that I felt like were necessary to make that story make sense, because otherwise her frustration and everybody else's stress with it is not earned. Like, the stress and the fear they have in these movies was not earned by the characters, because we're not told why they should have felt those ways. But no, you have to wait many years later to read a book to find out why that thing was earned. Or like, that's a problem for me.
They could have just taken a page out of WB and just add like 4 or 5 hours to their movie, and maybe it might be a little better. You know,
so it'd be fine. Yeah,
right.
Totally.
You know, and it doesn't. I'll die on that hill. Snyder Cut didn't make it better.
No, I will say that I enjoyed watching the Snyder Cut. To go, oh, this is intense and rad, but it didn't make it a better movie by any means.
Nope.
Like, it was like, oh, good, I preferred this version to the other version. Doesn't make one better. Like, it doesn't mean I like this movie. It just means it's not the pile of garbage that the first movie was. It's just a smaller pile of garbage.
I'm gonna call out my friend Bill at the comic shop. You know who you are, sir. He asked me like, I think a month before I left the comic shop, if I invited you over to my house, would you rather watch the first cut, the theatrical cut, or the director's cut? And I told him I'd rather watch the theatrical cut because it's not 4 hours long and we can do other stuff than watch, 1/6 of our day for.
Yeah. You know what I would rather just watch Bruce Timm's Justice League over and over and over again. That's what I would like to do, because this goes. He's just not a good director. He's just not. I mean, okay, granted, I will give him this. No one does slow motion like he does, but he does it so much that he ruins the effect of how awesome it is. You know what I mean? And none of his movies have aged well. 300, when that thing came out, that was the coolest freaking thing. 5 years later, nah, it's basura. And Sucker Punch should have been. All the math was there. Everything was there to make a great movie. How do you screw it up? And it's the same thing with Justice League. And it's these guys, and Feige kind of got it. He's like, you know what I need? We need people that actually understand why people are fans of these projects, and let's get the fans of these projects to direct and do all this. That's where you get the James Gunn. That's where you get Favreau. That's where you get all this amazing stuff from the MCU. Is because they put the fans first, not some schmuck saying, no, you're gonna like what we give you. Oh, you don't like that? Well, if you understood this, if you watch the deleted scenes, no, I don't need to watch the fucking deleted scenes. I need to watch the movie that you're putting in front of me, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. I shouldn't need all this other stuff to understand or even appreciate this. The other stuff should add to why I already love it or appreciate it. Like you said earlier, there's no need to be adding all this crap. Don't stop trying. And Hollywood does this. We'll tell you what you like. No, you don't get to tell us what you like. And they're learning that really hard with the superhero stuff. You know, because you have people, this isn't just like something that came out of nowhere and like, oh, now there's a couple fans of it. No, this is stuff that has almost a century of fandom behind it and history and has moved people in lots of different ways. And you come in here and you're just like, nope. Screw you. We're gonna do slow motion. we're gonna have an Icelandic song for like 10 minutes for no reason. Like,
yes. And put everyone up on a building and just stand there looking off into the distance, looking stoic. It's like, oh my god, I don't care. I just don't care.
Exactly.
Oh, and then we'll throw a montage, some sort of thing at the end where Dark Superman, who's upset because something happened that didn't actually happen that we need to watch, and then the Joker is just. The worst. Sorry, my wife loves that. I can't even think of the actor's name. She loves that actor. She's like, it's fine. I'm like,
Heath Ledger?
No. At the end,
Lita.
What's his name?
Lita, right?
James Patterson. Wow.
Who plays him? Who plays the Joker in
the new one?
Yes.
I have no idea.
Phoenix, right? No.
In
the
Batman, the one that we don't get to see his face.
No, I mean actually in the Justice League. I was actually thinking of the Justice League. Whatever the actor is who plays him in the Justice League.
Yeah, that did Morbius. Yeah, I don't.
That guy, I can't.
Oh yeah, Leto. Yeah, Jared Leto.
I freaking hate Jared Leto. I cannot stand him. This is my hill that I will die on. The man he's just terrible. He's terrible. And that Joker was. The Joker should be a lot of things. It could be a lot of things. Not that. Whatever that is, just needs to be put to bed and never used again. That was horrible. Don't do that.
I will give Jared Leto this. He was amazing in American Psycho because the way he took that axe to the head was it's what I've been wanting to see my whole life.
See, that did make me happy.
Yeah, watching that, this
I was good with that.
Yeah, I saw American Psycho after seeing all the other Jared Leto stuff, and I was just like, finally, something I want to see Jared Leto do, getting his head bashed in.
I appreciate that. No, thank you. I just had a good night. I did. Remembering that movie. I saw that in the theater too, and I barely can remember it.
Yeah.
All I remember is the mask Christian Bale takes off his face, like the beauty mask thing he peels off his face, the peel, and then dropping the chainsaw. That's all I can read. That's the only part.
Go do yourself a favor and rewatch that. Because first of all, totally away from Star Wars at this point, but that was Christian Bale's first time ever doing an American accent. And
yes, I do remember hearing that.
So there's a lot of people have given him notes like it sounds like fake and weird, but it really adds to the character because the character he plays is trying so hard to be normal, even though he's freaking psychotic in the back of his head.
Right.
So it really kind of works that he has a fake accent because he's fake. He's trying to be fake. It works really well. And that is just, such a great movie. And he was so fucking, that dude's body was so jacked. He was just completely, there was not an ounce of fat on that guy in that movie. It was insane.
Well, there's two reasons for that, actually. Okay, sorry, I know we're down this rabbit hole of not Star Wars stuff, but fun fact about that. I've heard an interview with him years later about that thing, and he's like, oh, the way you do that is you starve yourself, essentially, for a month, and then you don't drink any water at all. Basically, you have to dehydrate yourself for that to happen, and by the end of the day, when you're drinking water again, all those curves go away, and you got to dehydrate yourself the next day. On the cast of the 300, on the set of the 300, they had to do that. Gerard Butler and a few others who were on that said, laugh like, basically every morning they'd get on set at like 4 a.m. and work out for like 2 hours to just get as swole as they could. They had to stop drinking water like 2 hours before shooting. They only got to eat like a few hundred calories or whatever it was a day. So they're all like weak, but they have to do this so they look shredded. But as soon as the film was over and they went back to drinking and just eating normal food, instantly all of them are not shredded again, because you can't physically maintain that.
Right.
It's not possible. But yes, it looks fantastic on film.
And honestly, they were on a green screen set the whole time, so like it wasn't like they were out in the wilderness. I don't feel bad. I don't feel that bad.
I don't feel bad. Sorry, no. Okay. So.
And look at that! All completely back around with Christian Bale and Zack Snyder, and now we're back to Star Wars.
Christian Bale is a great actor, and I don't mind him cameoing. Cameoing, I don't know, whatever the word is on the podcast. That's okay with me.
Okay,
he deserves all the love.
One last thing I want to say for Christian Bale, and then we'll move on. Christian Bale as Plagueis. There we go.
Oh,
okay.
He's got the body type. All right, he can play real pretentious and old money. He can do that.
Oh,
I
think
he can do that.
He can. Oh, he can.
All right, I can see it.
All right,
I'm with you.
Now here's a question. Here's a question for you, Dom. We know Jeff's first time ever watching anything Star Wars was at home VHS New Hope. What was the first Star Wars thing you ever saw?
Return of the Jedi came on, I think it was either Spike or TNT. There was family from Britain that was visiting, and the guy, like my family member's husband, said, "Hey, the Star Wars is on. Do you want to watch?" And my parents weren't home. I think they were out, and he was showing me how to draw dinosaurs and all the other different stuff. I said, okay, we can watch. I don't know what this is because my friends keep talking about it, and they bring all their like Star Wars Legos to school, and I'm the only one in the class who doesn't have them, and I'm like, it didn't look cool to me at first. I was like 6-7 years old, but yeah, I watched Return of the Jedi and then Empire Strikes Back and then A New Hope, because that's just how the marathon worked for whatever reason. Don't ask me, that's TV schedules. But I instantly fell in love with it. I was like, man, these guys have like these cool lightsabers, and I thought like as a kid I thought that was super cool. Like there are these like the stormtroopers. I thought, man, these guys have cool designs, even though they're getting killed all the time. I thought they were still pretty cool. I just fell in love with Chewbacca. I think as a kid, because he was, you could just fill in the blanks with him. I think that's the best part about his character, right? Like not knowing, like Han Solo talks to him, he's like, "Rrr," and you go, yeah, you can make it, it's funny. But as a kid, that was, I went backwards with the original trilogy, and I haven't stopped since, and I'm glad I didn't.
So I have two things to say. That first of all, a lot of people don't know this, but when they were filming, that was dubbed later. He actually would say the lines that Chewie was actually saying to Harrison Ford or whoever. So he was actually saying the lines to them, and so he was actually responding in actual, like, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And then they dubbed it in there. Second, I also watched the original trilogy backwards. I was at a video rental place, and I saw on the wall there was Return of the Jedi, and I was like, what is this? It looked cool. My dad's like, oh yeah, you definitely like that. So we got it. I watched it. I was like, this is cool, but I feel like I'm missing a whole bunch. He's like, oh yeah, there's 2 movies before it. I was like, there's 2 movies before this? You let me watch the 3rd one? So we went back the next day. Empire was there, but New Hope wasn't. So I got Empire, watched Empire, and then every time I'd go back, they didn't have New Hope. And then finally, it just happened. If you remember, in the 90s, they did the re-release of the trilogy. I got
THX.
And yes, and I got that, and I finally got to watch A New Hope, and I was like, wow, it all makes sense now.
Yep. I remember getting to see. I've had a couple conversations with people at work younger than me who are like, "Oh, I got to see." When I remember getting to see the movies the first time in the theater too, I'm like, "Oh, that's super rad!" And they're like, "Yeah, I saw it like in '90, whatever they said." I'm like, "Oh, you mean the re-release when they did it in THX?" They're like, "The what?" I'm like,
"Hey guys, this was awesome, Jeff. Thank you so much for taking the time tonight." On Tuesday, to be able to just have fun with us talking about Star Wars.
Yeah, thank you both for having me. This has been super fun. I love getting to just wax poetic about Star Wars at any opportunity. I mean, you both know that from every time I come by the shop. I will happily engage in that conversation until someone says, "Okay, we're done talking, Jeff. We got other customers." So thank you both for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, for sure. It's been too long coming for us to get together and do this. And even though like we always talk about Star Wars, I could never get enough of it. Honestly, I could go on forever about it. You know, and I appreciate you coming on to New and Nerdum, and hopefully we can get you on our game show, and maybe you get a chance to win one of Dom's Omnis.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's a lot, including...
You better get up on your Marvel and DC trivia, though. Your Star Wars shit will probably be on point, but...
Oh, no. He'll get every Star Wars question. I have no doubt about that. That's not going to be the issue.
But thank you guys so much for watching this. This wasn't live this week, so I'm not going to thank our live guests. But thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate you guys every week. You know, you're tuning in and checking us out, and we literally can't and won't do it without you. So thanks.
I really appreciate all the messages that people have been sending too. It's insane the amount of like people who actually like saw that the PC was broken and spread it amongst other people. I mean, never in my life I would have seen the amount of support, I guess, for that, but it does mean a lot. You guys' words and signs of encouragement. It does mean a lot in my life, and well, Dylan's, I guess, too, because it's semi-intertwined, but you already know that. Regardless, don't forget to like this video. If you want to see more New and Nerdum, hit that subscribe button and make sure that notification bell is on so you can get live notifications every single time we live stream or I do a solo video or whatever it is. And you be you. Stay safe, and to more, have a awesome day, night, wherever it is, wherever you are.